Hello, and welcome to Two Front War, a bi-weekly podcast that covers the Yankees and Giants 2024 season. I'm Andrew, and this is Liam.
Hey, I'm Liam.
We thought about doing this podcast last year.
Yeah, and last season.
Last season, at the we thought about it at the beginning, right, of last season. We thought about wouldn't this be fun?
Yeah, there was like a joke. Then I brought it up.
Yeah,
just as we both realized that we were not going to be watching our teams play playoff baseball.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know that at the start. You guys, the Yankees, last year had a really, really good start to the season.
Not a bad start.
Not a bad start. Well, a lot better than the Giants, flip-flopping between not winning, losing, and not hitting any balls, or just getting nothing but homers. We had that flip in the summer where the Giants just went on I think a nine-game win streak, and Aaron Judge broke his foot.
Yeah.
Ugh, disgusting. And with that, we should do a recap of the 2023 season. What do you think?
I think that's a great way to start things out.
All right, well, you can start first with your recap.
I had to go over just the bare necessities of what you need to know in order to get in the mind of a Yankees fan. The Yankees finished 28-80 last season. Their worst final record since the very early 90s.
Now, you say 28-80?
82-80. They finished 82-80. Their worst since the early 90s, which may not sound bad to a lot of teams out there. I can recognize that, but not finishing a handful of games above 500 isn't really something the Yankees are known for. Not really part of the brand. Finishing one game above 500 isn't really acceptable, and I'm shocked that the vast majority of people, or at least fans are shocked that the vast majority of people in the front office have not been fired. But to go over to the three main things that I think hindered them last season.
Well, I just want to say that, yeah, technically a winning season, yes.
But by the smallest of hair follicles, you split one right in half there.
Yeah, it's you don't want to end 500
one game above 500.
One game above 500. Did you what is your acceptable range of for a Yankee season that doesn't end in the postseason?
You'd think at least 85. Or you're scratching at the very least at the 90 wins.
So what went wrong?
Number one would be hitting, and this relates to on-base percentage. I think batting average is a stat a lot of people overlook, but if there were more people with higher batting averages on the roster last year, a lot of the problems wouldn't have really hindered the Bronx Bombers. But made a notable no-hitting people would be DJ LeMahieu, Giancarlo Stanton, Jose Trevino, Josh Donaldson, just actual role players that should have been more of a presence in the lineup. And for being paid the money that they're being paid, you kind of need them to come in clutch. And DJ, especially someone who's known for coming in clutch, also headed the lineup. Not really acceptable. I'm really hoping he has a bounce back year. And a fan favorite of mine, Oswaldo Peraza, started off the season not really in the lineup. He was just kind of like a role player. They're like, maybe we can plug him in at left field. No, you need a left fielder to play left field. I'm sorry.
What is his typical position?
He was originally a shortstop, and they were trying to move him between second and third base. I think he's kind of solidified as a third base guy now.
Are they trying to put him in left field?
Yeah. He had a couple of good outings in left field. He made a couple of clutch plays the season before, and I think Cashman thought it would have been a good idea to plug him in there for maybe not the long-term future, but at least to get you through the start of the season, and it just was not working out.
Okay.
Number two, what went wrong would have to be Garrett Cole being the only consistent pitcher. The big deal over two of the big deals over that postseason that Judge hit those 62 home runs would probably be re-signing him and then finding another ace to pair with Garrett Cole. And they went out and they got Carlos Rodon. They packed up the trucks, gave him the house.
Yeah.
You're a former Giants guy, and I know
Yep.
you had some conflicting feelings about that, but I think it took the sting off when he turned into like a potato.
Yeah, definitely. That definitely made it hurt a lot less. Because whenever there's like you have those trades, you know, and you see like you see them thrive, right? Like you see the player thrive wherever they go. It's like, oh, like we're not
What
good,
could have
are we?
been?
Like what could have been, Oh, how many wins? Because you kind of take a look at their starts, right? And you're like, that would have been a win for us. That would have been
Hmm.
a win for us. And he imploded.
He just was not the same. He
He had
wasn't the
no idea what happened.
borderline
Well,
Cy Young kind of guy.
he got traded, and then immediately was like, I have I have to do surgery,
Yeah,
and he was out for the first half or a good portion of the first half.
for the Yankees.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was out for the first half.
he was about out half for about he was out for about the first half, and then he comes back, and his first outing is just like terrible. All his outings were terrible. Um, it looks like New York got to him a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. At the beginning of before spring training, he said he got rid of the mustache. He shaved it just because of the bad juju he kind of associated with it after immediately coming to New York. And like
Mm-hmm.
they kind of have a strict like no facial hair policy, but like they
Yeah,
skid the line when it like it's not technically going below the top lip. So it's like that's the one thing you can get away with.
it's like an army style mustache.
Maybe we'll talk about the Yankees' stringent dress code policy in the future and my at least my opinions about it. But
Conversation for another day.
yeah, not just to put the entire brunt of it on Rodon because there are other people who should have kind of stepped up, but Nestor Cortez coming off his
Yeah,
Cinderella season, not the same pitcher, and he got hurt and spent a lot of the year not pitching or in the minors, working his way back up through rehab assignment. I'd attribute most of his struggling to the new pitch clock, which I love. It makes the game go by so much faster.
I also like
But
the
he's
pitch
kind of
clock.
a guy that like all about getting you off guard. Like he's gonna
Mm-hmm.
pump his foot 10 times on the mound and then give a big old swing and then put it in just like the oddest place in your strike zone. But he
Yeah,
can't really get away with that anymore.
I wonder if he's just going to be playing a lot with, you know, because you don't have a lot of time, right? Um, the batter has to be ready by 8 seconds. Um, so you have those 8 seconds, to really mess with a batter and like kind of mess with their timing, right?
Yeah, around that. Yeah, that was like 7 or 8 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, they did have the changes to the pitch clock, I believe, for this new season.
Yeah, you get a little bit more time.
A little bit more time. But it'd be interesting to see like if he moves from just like the foot tap to just inconsistent, a good inconsistency of just when he's throwing the pitch, like how close to zero.
I hope he figures out something because he hasn't had good spring training starts.
Oh, that's not good. I know that people say spring training isn't indicative of what the season is going to be, but like when it comes to your veterans, right? It's like, hey, you better.
You better like put on a show for at least a game.
Yeah, it's not fun when you just see a team that's just going through the motions because like, hey, it's spring training.
Yeah.
Well, what's the matter? It doesn't matter. It's not real. It's like, well, no, it's not. But like, I don't know. You should probably feel like you're trying to make the team every year, because there's always someone younger and that's ready to just take it from you.
And another what went wrong, the last one I have written down is it baffles me how this still happened, but Rizzo playing almost like an entire month with a concussion.
Yeah,
What notoriously one of the best first basemen in all of baseball, just turning into maybe the worst player in the entire league out of nowhere. And we trace it back to
and brain damage.
literal brain damage, him getting essentially kneed in the head, a V trigger to the head by Fernando Tatis Jr.
So what happened? How did he get concussed?
It was a pickoff attempt at first.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Tatis was going back to the bag, and it was just I believe it was a pickoff attempt. Maybe he was running back to avoid the double play. And Tatis kind of a flashy type of player. Maybe has
Yes.
some dirty tactics behind his sleeve, but his knee or like his leg just finds Rizzo's head.
Oh,
and he like kind of
wow.
stumbles, falls over for a little bit, but it's like
Okay.
he was taken out of the game, I believe, but he was put back in like a game or two later, and he assumed he passed concussion protocol apparently, so everyone thought he was fine, like organizationally behind closed doors, but that just wasn't the case, and it kind of baffles me that that mistake was kind of allowed to happen.
Was it the league concussion procedures or team concussion
It was
procedures?
probably
Both.
team concussion,
So it sounds like
like
that they need to change that.
it's probably like a league protocol being executed by team officials, team medical personnel.
Definitely something to take a look at. You know, because concussions are scary.
Yeah,
uh, and it's just kind of wild because like I remember, like the online discourse about it. Right? It was just like, what is he doing? Like he just give up. Why did he forget how to play
is he
baseball?
not seeing these pitches? He's getting thrown meatballs right down the middle. He's not swinging at them.
Yeah, it turns out, there was something wrong with him.
Get a load of this guy. It's like he has brain damage or something.
Yeah, like, wait, what happened, Rizzo? Wild. Yeah, like, especially since that's the guy that uh, kind of convinced Judge to stay.
I think Judge wanted to stay, but it was like a nice, like, wholesome moment. Like, you're gonna take our dogs away from each other. But that's all I have for me. Uh, I would really like to hear from you, Andrew. Your opinions on what went wrong last season with your San Francisco Giants.
What went wrong with the San Francisco Giants? The
Yeah,
2023 San Francisco Giants?
them boys.
The 79-83 San Francisco Giants? That team?
Yeah, them boys.
Yeah, a lot. A lot went wrong. You can see our script. I've got a lot of I don't know if that caught on mic, but my cat just had a mighty sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah, a lot went wrong. You can see in our script that I've got an essay.
He Andrew put down a lot. There's like some spring training stuff in here. There's injuries that did happen. There's injuries that have recently happened. It's just like, and at the very end, it was just cope.
And then it gets it's just funny as this episode goes on, you'll see that I go from angry to depressed to like actually hoping. But to start off where I think things went wrong is what I like to call the jock corner. We signed at the end of the 2022 season, re-signed Jock to play for the 2023 season. He was the DH, so I was supposed to be the DH. Unfortunately, that's when I learned about a Filipino card game called Pasoy. And apparently, this is like Jock's favorite card game. You just get players together to play after games, regardless of whether or not the night was a win, a loss, or if you're in the middle of a losing streak. And this definitely caused a rift between veterans and rookies alike. I think it really messed up, damaged the club culture because you have this carefree attitude, which the Giants are already kind of like known for, being a little bit carefree. But when you're in the middle of a losing streak, like you just can't play games, right? And during that the season, a picture got released of the Giants batting practice, and it was a picture of Jock smoking a cigar while taking pitches. And I don't know if you saw this picture, but is it iconic? Yes. Unfortunately, you can't do that when your slash line's the trash.
Yeah. You can look as hard as you want. If your if your batting average is just almost touching the Mendoza line, I think you gotta like pick it up a little bit, bud. Maybe don't smoke something that makes your mouth feel like it's full of hot sand.
Yeah, yeah, and like destroys your lungs, especially on a team that can't run. And much to Jock's hire, his weight was brought up a lot to the point where he had to talk about it and say that his weight is not a problem. I think it was a little bit of a problem. The Giants were the slowest team in 2023, and that lack of speed was definitely a killer because throughout the league, individual players had more steals than the Giants as a whole. And I'm not just talking about players that were leading, home runs, leading steals. It was bad. And just to give you an idea of what Jock Slashline looks like, batting average 235, on base percentage 348, on base plus slugging 764, and he had 15 home runs and 51 RBIs.
Yikes on that on base plus slugging.
He was so inconsistent that there were multiple games where he was actually placed in left field. The DH position was given to someone else, either Wilmer or Tyro.
Burn those calories, guy.
Yeah, which is, the writing was on the wall for him, when that happened. It was like, okay, because this wasn't just like, hey, someone's hot right now on a hot streak. Let's, try to get them as many at-bats as possible, right? So we spent $9 million, I wish I had $9 million to spend, but the Giants spent $9 million on a DH who was so spotty that he was demoted to a position player. And then there was the bullpen fiasco. The first month and a half was atrocious. The bullpen killed motivation for me. There were points early in that season where once the starter was removed, if the Giants were losing, I stopped watching because it was just that bad. They just gave up as many hits as they possibly could. Taylor Rogers had a terrible, terrible outing in one particular game. I believe it was against the Dodgers. It could have been against the Dodgers. Or maybe I can't remember. But what was memorable about that outing is that he had a 10 plus pitch at bat, and that when he was pulled from the game, threw his glove away. Thankfully, he did get it together. Both Taylor and Tyler got it together. They're twins. And Sean Manaea, who was a starter, who got turned into a relief pitcher, became a shining star for me. He not great at starting, a little bit of a wild pitcher, but he didn't strike the dread in me whenever he came out to relieve. And then come late spring, the contempt I had for the bullpen was gone. There was also a lot of inconsistent hitting. Here their number of hits and runs for the first 9 games of the 2023 season. All right, you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
All right, so it's going to be hits and runs. Game 1, 4-0, which was a loss. 12-7 was a win. 3-0, a loss. 14-12, win. 4-3, loss. 20-11, win. 9-3, loss. 8-6, loss. 5-1, loss. The spottiness is just bizarre, to say the least. Because not only were they alternating between wins and losses so consistently, but they were also losing just because of not hitting. Regardless of what the starters or the bullpen did, they're just not hitting. And one of the biggest, or a big disappointment was that opening game against the Yankees, where they got the 4 hits and no runs. There was a lot of talk about Garrett Cole that game, about how many strikeouts he got and how long he lasted throughout the game, right? And he was facing off against the Giants ace, Logan Webb. And Logan Webb performed better. If you just looked at what they did, Logan Webb was the better pitcher that game. It was just that there was no, no offense behind him to help him. And yeah, sure, he gave a home run against Judge, but was that not expected?
Who doesn't give home runs up against Judge?
And then come summer, the Giants were on a roll. No better time was had when they swept in order the Cardinals, Dodgers, and took 3 out of 4 games from the Padres in a 10-game win streak. But as the summer got hotter, so did Wilmer. Unfortunately, that was too much for the tired team. We had a disaster game against the Mets. Tyro got hit in the hand, broke his hand. And during that series, I think that was also the same series where Wilmer broke his foot when he hit a foul ball into himself, and on the very next pitch got a home run, which is really cool. But yeah, he hurt his foot. So once we got to that disaster of a game against the Mets, the whole fan base was just kind of like, okay, we just got to stay at 500 until the All-Star break, and unfortunately, they could not. Giants could not recapture the magic of that early summer. What's wild is if you look at the first 9 games, they split it. What is that like? Almost 50-50, right? At throughout almost the entire season, they held a playoff position. Even when it was like they're not going to do it. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. They still won. They still had the tiebreakers if it got to that point, which is something which happened last year in the 2022 season, or I guess 2 years ago now, the 2022 season. And, I think it was Farhan and Gabe were just like, hey, we got the tiebreakers though. And, everyone's like, yeah, that's not, you shouldn't, brag about that. It should never get down to tiebreakers. And once again, we had a season that came down to potentially tiebreakers. And it was just really sad seeing that cushion disappear. Like anytime you have that, a 10-game win streak, that's awesome, right? And it's just so depressing because, depending on when that 10-game win streak happens, that can cement you into the playoffs, right? And it's just very depressing seeing that that cushion disappear. There are also a lot of injuries, so many injuries. Mike Yastrzemski had continuous hamstring injuries throughout the season. Patrick Bailey also got rocked, took a hit. Wilmer kept getting balls into his feet. And kind of circling back to Thairo Estrada, who was the team's stolen base leader. He had 23 stolen bases last season, which is more than the next 8 players combined. So that just kind of like ties into just how, the Giants just don't steal. He had his hand broken when he took a wild pitch to his right hand. And then Desclafani dropped a piano bench on his foot, and
did he actually?
Yes, he dropped a piano bench on his foot, and
I haven't heard of that event.
Yeah, he was out for a little bit, and he couldn't even reach his the level of mediocrity he had before the injury. One of the most devastating things to that to last season was definitely management losing authority. This ties back to Pasoy because veterans, particularly Logan Webb, which is a big one because he's the ace and he's the face of the team, and Mike Yastrzemski, to the media, expressed their discontent of the vibes in the clubhouse, that it was too loose, too calm, lacking the drive to win. Eventually, things boiled over. Thairo Estrada, quiet guy. Everyone noted that he is not someone who gives speeches, and he gave one to the clubhouse to try to motivate the team. Beat writers took that as an unusual step. Yaz spoke up about the lack of accountability. Logan Webb expressed his disappointment to the media. He's an amazing pitcher. He was a Cy Young nominee for the season, and I think one of the reasons he didn't win it, despite his amazing season, was because there was no offense behind him. Whenever anytime he was on, he was starting, it was just like, okay, this is going to be a nail biter because just for some reason the team can't hit when he pitches. You can only, it's an eventuality, before you're a pitcher and you give up a run. You just hope that the offense, can give you a decent cushion. There are also a lot of errors made by the defense that led to unearned runs, and Logan Webb ending with I think a 500 season, if not a losing season. Although nobody really pays attention to pitchers' win-loss because
it can't always be their fault.
Yeah, it just can't be their fault every single time. And he can have a rough 2 innings. But he can also get himself out of jams. And too many of starts ended in losses of 1 or 2 run games. And this got to him. You could tell, like in some of the post-game interviews where he started, that even some of the reporters ask, like, you know, are like, how do you get frustrated when your teammates just aren't hitting and like not scoring? The Giants were just dismal, dismal when it came to hitting with runners in scoring position. To the point where it's just like either hit a home run or just please stay out of the double play. Then, depending on who you are, you can see this as a what went wrong, um, or a good thing. Then depending on where you fall. But Gabe Kapler was fired as the season was coming to a close. The Giants' season ending October 1st was obvious. Fans began to wonder what was going to happen to Gabe and Farhan, and we got our answer the last week of the regular season. Farhan was staying, and Gabe was going. As manager, Gabe Kapler had one winning season, the amazing 107-55-2021 season. I don't think that could ever be taken away. You can't be an aloof manager and just accidentally, get 107 wins.
Yeah.
Like that's just not something that happens by accident. 2022, the team dropped down to 81-81, and 2023 was 79-83. 2020 was 29-31, but you can take it or leave it. I don't think that season counts. So it was a disappointing tenure, to say the least. He, had a very laid-back attitude. Very few ejections as manager. He had 3 ejections as a Giants manager and 4 with the Phillies. I don't know if you follow his Instagram at all.
No.
He did a lot of food reviews like during the season. He was just doing like a lot of like San Francisco food reviews. Like he was like really into tacos and stuff. He had that really bizarre TikTok that they posted. I don't know if you heard about that. This happened in this off season where I think he's still in San Francisco, and he's just like walking and he's like talking about Google Maps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, like if you're if you got to go somewhere and you put in like you put in the address in Google Maps and it says it's going to be a 15-minute drive. Yeah, it's probably gonna.
Oh, I remember this. It was like, it's probably going to walk.
Yeah, but if you have to walk and it says 15 minutes, well, it might not be accurate because you just walk faster. Oh, Gabe. He does take mental health seriously, and I do believe that he truly did have the best intentions for the players. But it's also a fine line. When you're in that kind of position, you have to hold firm as a manager and ensure that deficiencies are corrected. That's paramount to success. And sometimes you have to pull out the stick. But that doesn't mean you have to berate a player. You don't have to make them feel like garbage because they're just not performing. And unfortunately, with that laid back attitude, less serious players were able to sniff that out, and they pushed complacency to unacceptable limits. And that is everything that went wrong with the Giants. Liam, what are your expectations for the Yankees this season?
Well, I have pretty high expectations, and in order to get to those expectations, it's time to take a look at some off-season changes. The big one, they got him. They got probably the youngest superstar of his caliber ever seen in the sport, Juan Soto. Kind of a 5-tool player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him. He played won a World Series when he was, I think, he was like 20. I don't think he was able to drink yet.
Oh wow!
Then he got traded to a little team known as the San Diego Padres when they were trying to buy their way to a World Series.
Dang.
And to their credit, they made some noise. They made some noise one year. We'll give them that. But that year wasn't last year. So the impending fire sale came on, and the Yankees were looking for a left fielder. Well, someone that can play the outfield and was a left-handed bat, and sort of fit the mold. I think he was just barely able to drink when he won a World Series with the Nationals, and they upset the
cheating
Astros to overwhelmingly joy my heart to see that team fail. I will never not be upset to see them lose. But the high Dominican population in New York and him being probably the face of DR representation in the league is going to play well to the crowd of the Bronx. So I can't wait to see the fanfare that he is in store for. I hope his spring training numbers are an accurate representation of what to expect, and I hope that after this season, the Yankees will find find the money and find a way to keep him around. But also in that Soto trade they did with the Padres, they also got Trent Grisham, who I have heard is an amazing role player, and he's not going to catch a lot of headlines, but he's going to put up numbers that after pretty blatant assessment,
Mhm.
he's a guy that a lot of teams wouldn't want to lose.
Mhm.
So I really can't wait to actually see him in action opening day, which I fully expect him to have some role in,
Mhm.
especially with the handful of injuries that have come down in the recent days. But I'll save that one for a little later. But a big pitching signing, the only really big pitching signing they had this year when it came to the starting rotation was Marcus Stroman,
Mhm.
who has put up some great numbers, which I'm very happy to see. And with Cole out now, he might be the top
Mhm.
of the top of the rotation kind of guy
Mhm.
until maybe he comes back. But more interesting than that, it's a very different like character for the
Mhm.
Yankees to sign. They're kind of like the hard nosed, all business, professional looking type of guys, and
Yeah.
Stroman's kind of he has a history of kind of like bad mouthing organizations that he's either left or been traded away from.
Mhm.
And he's a loud, cocky kind of player. He's got the tattoos down from his neck to like his torso and
Yeah.
everything. He's a flashy kind of guy, and
Where it's like
but
old school Yankees are probably being like mm-mm, turtleneck.
yeah, turtleneck, suit, arrived at every stadium, every game in a suit, and
Mhm.
then change out of that. Uh, all the boring white faces, black and white faces of old, but he's definitely a big departure, but he's also kind of changed his demeanor. I think he's very happy to be a Yankee, and that's kind of coming out in the way he talks now. And
Mhm.
I think he wants to stay here long term, which I'm happy to hear. And I wish him nothing but the best. Please play well for my team, please, please, please.
Well, hopefully he does, because that, especially when it seems like somebody like a player is excited to be with the team, you just want them to succeed. You know.
I think originally being from New York, I believe he's originally from New York. If you fact check me, please edit this part out. But it definitely plays into that effect, and also having an ill will towards the Mets.
Yeah.
There's only one more place to go, and it's historically the more prestigious organization. But
Mhm.
speaking of out of face places, Alex Verdugo, now a
Mhm.
former Red Sox, current Yankee,
Mhm.
he's got the grills, he's got the chain whenever he's practicing.
Mhm.
They have him listed as an outfielder, so also being a left-handed bat, he's kind of a big need. A big need for the Yankees is left-handed bats. You got the short porch over in right field. Lefties naturally hit more towards that side.
Mhm.
Babe Ruth comparison to be made, not in full, just like you know,
Hitting wise.
there's it's a short porch for a reason. It was built for him,
Yeah.
and that's translated to this new stadium. But I've heard nothing but good things since he's come over. He's also one to kind of clean up his look.
Mhm.
Uh, Opinions about that in the future, but I heard he's also been producing, so I can't wait to see what he's going to do when the regular season starts up and our record is beginning
Mhm.
to calculate itself. And one more little choice I've decided to put down is Jeter Downs being offered a minor league contract. He was
Mhm.
like the Red Sox Jeter that came up and had a couple of good games against the Yankees, and it was like, this is the Jeter of Boston. He's gonna put old Derek to shame, and then he was sent back down to the minors and traded away, and put on waivers by the Nationals, and he's
Oh
somehow
no.
found his way back here, and I just found that really really funny. Returning players that we like, Judge and Cole. What can I say that hasn't already been said? They're probably the two most dominant one hitter, one pitcher in the league on their best days. No one can quite rival them when they're firing on all cylinders.
Do you think that if Judge didn't get hurt in the Bums field, that he would have broke his record?
I don't think broke his record, but he was on the exact same pace. I believe I remember seeing
Tying it.
maybe maybe tying it, but just like scratching at it a little bit. And then maybe that could have propelled the team into some playoff success. But the Yankees over the past couple seasons have kind of like built their entire identity around him, and their entire production has also come off of him. And they kind of got to recognize that it can't just be a one man show. You need like a Soto to kind of be in the lineup. You kind of need an extra ace aside from Cole, like a Snell I would have liked, but I think Marcus Stroman is currently doing right now. But I think a very underrated bat that doesn't get a lot of the recognition he deserves league wide is Gleyber Torres, who, if Judge isn't really hitting home runs, he can be relied on to get a big hit when times come. He's statistically one of the more productive defensive second basemen in the league, and I believe he's in a contract year. So if he really balls out, keeping both him and Soto around would be just great for team identity, but also team production, because pairing those guys up, I feel like they're already like locker room buddies. Like there's just a great friendship when you become a Yankee, and when you are a Yankee, you're always a Yankee. But to keep these guys around would be great. Except Robinson Cano, I'm glad he's no longer a Yankee. Get this bum out of here. I don't care that his Mexican League team just kind of clobbered them up a little bit, but and not too happy about those the roid usage either.
With the offseason comes departing players. And who are you saddest to see leave?
I really liked Michael King when the rotation problems were happening last season. King was kind of this crown jewel, like this closer if we ever went on a deep playoff run. Maybe not Rivera levels, Mariano Rivera levels, but who truly is, but he got the job done. So at the end of the season, Booney was playing around with this like his stamina per game, and they were using him as a starter for a little bit, and he got pretty fantastic numbers, relatively speaking. But in order to get Juan Soto, they traded him away to the San Diego Padres along with Wandy Peralta, who was before Michael King probably the crown jewel closer, even less Mariano Rivera comparison. But when you get the job done in New York, people are gonna start hoping upon the star that you're the second coming of the legendary 42. And then just some locker room faces that I really liked. IKF, I loved him last season. He kind of grew into his own. He got his own identity. And what do you know? When you don't play him at shortstop, amazing things happen.
What was he best at fielding or baseman?
He was a really good third baseman. He won his Golden Glove during the COVID shortened season.
Okay.
And everyone kind of discounted him for that.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, it's the Mickey Mouse season or whatever, the bubble season. But I don't think it's anything to scoff at. And his production defensively went up whenever he played there. So if Josh Donaldson wasn't around, who I'll get to once I get to this next player, but I would have liked to see a role for him kind of be carved out a little bit, but I completely understand his departure, and I wish him the best in Toronto. But another face I was sad to see leave, who was very good when he first got here, was Harrison Bader. He was originally acquired from a trade with the Cardinals, but he was injured to start off. So he came in right as oh God, I forget his name, but there was another outfielder that they got from I forget where, but he went down and he came back in just as he was going. And you think with maybe those two healthy bats, they could have done something during that miracle 2022 season. But he came in one of the best center fielders to probably ever do it when he was at his peak. He's with the Mets now, and he was traded away at the trade deadline last season. Well, I don't even think traded away. I think he was picked up off of waivers.
Oh no!
Just because we couldn't have him around. The bat wasn't there. The defensive numbers weren't there. But I really hope he has a bounce back. No ill will whatsoever. And just a little sad to see him go. Also a New York guy. He came in with the Statue of Liberty cleats, which were just like amazing to see.
New Yorkers love the Statue of Liberty.
We love it. We love that green, that ugly green. I love it. I'd eat it up.
Although the gift shop resides in New Jersey.
Can we sell Staten Island to New Jersey and just get the surrounding water so we can get all that property back?
All right, and anyone else that you're sad left?
No, it's time to get into the people I'm happy that are gone.
Okay.
Aaron Hicks. He departed middle of last season just because his numbers were not there. He went to the Orioles when they were making noise, and he immediately made more noise. And everyone was like, "Oh, how did the Yankees let this guy go?" Not knowing that probably a change of scenery aided a lot to his new development and whatever he was able to get going.
And those cool hats.
And those cool hats.
Oh, the funny little bird.
And just a little bit of an O's fan on the side.
I like their logo. I like the bird.
I like the bird.
I don't know what kind of bird it is.
That's what that one meme is about.
Yeah.
But after a while, it just became a sore sight to see him around, and I don't know. I just had immense joy to see him go. Nothing against him personally, but it's just like, thank God this guaranteed out is out of my lineup. Speaking of guaranteed out, Josh Donaldson, beginning of 2022, I was very happy. He came in with a couple of clutch hits. Got some wins off of that bat, but his production left as soon as it came, and it's just a very different character, very like loudmouth, very protective. He got into that controversy with Tim Anderson. Like, some people feel one way about it, some people feel another way about it. I don't want to touch that much, but I just he was brought in to kind of give like a little bit of a shift to a culture, a little more like a sharp edge, but you can't really have that much of a sharp edge when your bat has lost its muster. You can't hit many home runs in Yankee Stadium of all places. So I like the idea on paper, but in practice it didn't really pan out. And now he is retired after being let go, and he was picked up by the Brewers for a hot second there, thinking they might get something going, but that was the end of his story in the show. That was the end of the book. Speaking to the end of a crazy story, Domingo Germán and his time with the Yankees.
Through a perfect game.
Through a perfect game. The last person in the entire New York Yankees starting rotation you would have assumed to throw a perfect game. Literally the last one. I would expect IKF to throw a perfect game before I'd guess Domingo Germán threw a perfect game.
Wow.
But some not so savory things came out about his character, some domestic abuse situations, alleged. I don't know the current status of it, but I'm going to say alleged. He was put on sabbatical or something by the team, so that freed up a roster spot so they could experiment with what they had. But he is gone now. He is with the Pittsburgh Pirates at the moment with Aroldis Chapman, so they have now reunited so they can allegedly do some stuff together.
Wow.
But that was him. That was him. And just to talk about some not so savory things that have happened in spring training so far, Cole out 1 to 2 months with what might be the start of a future Tommy John situation in his arm.
Yeah, that's scary.
He's a very fierce character. He's a very determined and driven individual, so I don't think he'll be out of the league anytime soon. I think he'll find some situation that'll benefit him and make it work.
When he gave up that homer to Vogelbach, is that when you're like, oh no?
Nah, it's spring training. You don't stuff like that kind of happens. You know, some odd guys get some hit. I saw Matt Carpenter hit a token home run when I went to a Cardinal spring training game, so that was fun to see. Shout out to Matt Carpenter. He's my guy.
Hi, Mr. Carpenter.
Hello. He watches our stuff. But no, I just can't wait to have him back because I know he's probably going to start producing immediately once he hits the mound. But just this morning, DJ LeMahieu out for the opening of the season with a bruised foot. Waiting for more details on that. Sorry to hear.
How did he bruise it? Did it involve a piano bench? Because if it did, I have bad news.
What was Tatis Jr.'s thing? He fell off his motorcycle or something?
Bumgarner fell off a motorcycle and
he fell off his motorcycle foot first.
I don't know. So it's funny because Jerry Jones banned one of his players from flying other like Cowboys players in his plane,
Mm-hmm.
and I just can't believe that like baseball players. I can't believe that they're riding motorcycles. It's I can't believe that you're like there's something like in the contract like you cannot ride a motorcycle for the entirety of your career with us.
Your main job is to swing a bat or throw a ball, and you're gonna put yourself in a air open moving vehicle. And just one last thing to note at the end of my segment: Judge is reporting to be a spring training hurt or something to that effect.
Okay,
Early season hurt.
it's not
I'm
good.
scared.
Yeah.
I'm secretly crying and peeing in the corner.
Oh no,
But
that's gross.
if he has to take a couple of games off, fine. I just hope it doesn't amount to any point in the IL stint because that's always a knock to the morale of the team.
Yeah.
And if he's not there at all, the team hasn't produced much,
Mhm.
which is something that collectively they need to work to not do.
Mhm.
Just having him out of the lineup completely is just not good for the fan base overall. And I wish him the best of luck, and I hope he gets healthy. Now, Andrew,
Oh, hang on, hang on. For this season, how do you think they're going to do? Win loss.
win loss, I am very optimistic. I am predicting that they are going to make the postseason
Okay.
with a record of 91 and 71.
Okay. So you think they're going to hit the minimum acceptable to you Yankees record?
I don't know if they'll be atop the division, but at the very least, they will have a wild card spot in a game that I think they will win against all odds, whatever that may be.
Let me throw a curveball at you.
Okay.
Judge out for extended time. Cole
Hmm.
needs Tommy John.
Okay.
Do they make it to the postseason?
If one of those things happens, yes. Both of them, like you said, no.
Okay. Do you think if both of those things happen, do you think they break 500 or do you think they go below?
I think they break 500.
Okay,
They
so
break 500.
they still win.
I think they keep their record of consecutive winning seasons intact.
Okay. I guess we'll get into the Giants offseason
Yes, Andrew.
changes.
Tell me about your San Francisco offseason changes.
Yes.
How is the Bay looking?
It was looking real rough. It was like a real rough for a moment there. There were some things that happened in December that I was less than thrilled with while taking my dog out on a walk because I decided to, for some reason, look at Instagram. Well, not a player. He's not a player, but still important to the makeup of the team. Bob Melvin, new manager. He's going to be, I think, an overall positive to the team. He's stricter. He's made his demands known. He demands that players be early. They if you're on time, you're late. He has an expectation that is for the players that's very much old school, and a lot of the older players are very happy with that. And when you have your veterans pleased with what you're doing, I think that's only going to be good. But on top of that, they also signed Matt Chapman. He's going to be a solid third baseman. Unfortunately, so with Matt Chapman comes a stacked third base. Wilmer being turned to a utility player. We had Casey Schmidt. He could play both shortstop and third base. I like Casey Schmidt at third base because he throws laser beams to the first baseman. But then, okay, well, that means if Casey's not going to be playing third base, then you got him at maybe shortstop. But everyone was expecting, with the departure of Brandon Crawford, that Marco Luciano was going to replace him. So it kind of feels like you've got Casey Schmidt and Marco Luciano, fighting for that shortstop position now. Then you've got, Wilmer being turned into a utility player, which is interesting. I guess he can just be placed around, but you've got to start another guy that is going to be the DH. So Wilmer can't really be the DH. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. And I think there's going to be some moves the Giants are going to be making come trade deadline. Also, the age of Japan is over, Liam. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I have not.
Yes, and the age of
That's all
Korea
good.
has arrived because the Giants signed Jung Hoo Lee.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yeah. And one of the big reasons he chose the Giants was because they were the only ones to guarantee him to play center field. Other teams that were interested in him and that he spoke to were offering, just the outfield in general. The Giants were the only team to guarantee him center field. Now, I do know that KBO players have a tendency to struggle upon arrival to the MLB, but I think that with the support that the Giants offer to all players, that he will succeed. Just to give you an idea of like what his stat line was in 2023 with the KBO. Batting average was 318, on base percentage 406, OPS 861, 50 runs, and he was intentionally walked 7 times. And for a long time, Jung Hoo Lee was the first one to be signed, or he was like the first big signing. Then it was quiet for a long time before they got Matt Chapman, and then it was quieter even longer before we got our DH, Jorge Soler. We finally have someone who can hit. He's going to be the first Giant to have 30 home runs in a single season since Barry Bonds.
Is that your prediction?
No, that's a fact.
Oh, it's a fact.
It is a fact. Oh, I'm just saying. He's going to be. It wasn't done. His 30 home runs in the season was not done with the Giants, but he's the first just Giant period to have a 30 home run season, 30 home runs in a single season. Whether like he does it with the Giants or with his previous season, right? In fact, Oracle Park is notoriously a hitter unfriendly park, which is why JD Martinez chose to not go to San Francisco. But with Jorge Soler, if you took all his home runs from last season and you stuck them all in Oracle Park, he actually gains, I believe, 1 home run. And then probably the biggest get that the Giants had for the offseason, which was started off as a depressing offseason that only got better and better.
Only got better as time went on.
Yeah, only got better as time got on, just like a fine wine. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Blake Snell.
There he is.
There he is. We got
Signed.
him. After an entire offseason of wondering where he was going to go, Blake Snell finally signed with the Giants, effectively kicking out Amir Garrett, who I was not particularly pleased with, who has also been, I believe he was traded, if not sent down. I do want to note that media seemed to be very quiet upon his signing. Whether it's because Shohei is signing eclipsed everything, or people were tired of Scott Boras, or if you're an NL West team that isn't the Dodgers, people just don't care. It's hard to say. What do you think?
I think it was much overdue, but I think he is going to a place that he will find great success in. And I think it's a big need for your team specifically, just because losing out on some key starting rotation guys over the past 3, 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't really like the contract. Like a 1 year opt out. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, if I pitch well, I'm going to want more money.
Yes. So to get to that, it's a 2-year contract, $62 million total, with an opt out after the season, which really just comes down to if he does what he did last season, which is the hope for the Giants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to stay with the team? And that just comes down to what does the team look like at the end of the season. So my question for you, Liam, is if Snell doesn't perform, which I think is unlikely, does he opt out at the end of the season?
No.
And if Giants once again fail to make it to the postseason, regardless of how Snell performs, do you think he's going to opt out?
I think it would be a stupid idea for him to opt out, and I don't think this contract was in the best interest. It was in his best interest? Here's why.
Okay.
He won the Cy Young last season.
Yes.
On top of doing that, he was looking for a long-term deal with a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
He just really wanted a lot of money. He
Yes.
wanted a lot of money in a long-term deal. The problem is he is now on the wrong side of 30. And I think the older and older he gets, the less likely him signing a long-term deal will be, and the less likely him getting big money is going to be moving forward.
But do you think that's a real, do you really believe that when you've got You got the Mets and Daddy Cohen.
I think they have wisened up on their choice of pitchers. I think they want to go for more longevity rather as opposed to previous success and even current success. Age is, I think, now a big priority for them.
And I got another question about you that we could probably talk through,
Yep.
and because one of the big bullet points when it came to Blake Snell and his talk of his talk of the his free agency, which took so long. He missed the entirety of spring training. So he's not. It's going to take a little bit for him to get into the rotation. But it's about his walk. And my first question is: do walks matter?
I don't really think so.
Yeah, I am of the mindset of like they can, but every walk is situational.
Every walk, of course, every walk is situational, but walk as it relates to strikeout,
Mm-hmm.
and even then, strikeouts are kind of in this weird flux period where even they don't matter. It's just your ability to get someone out.
Yeah.
There is a certain breed of pitcher in the league now
Mm-hmm.
who just throws very difficult pitches, but they are in the strike zone. So you're kind of forced to hit it, and they tailor it to as many batters as they can.
Yes.
And when you do hit it, it just kind of it's in a weird spot where it just kind of trembles out, and it's always going to land somewhere in the infield,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll always kind of like divert into a throw over to first base.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to study this concept more, but Snell is kind of I don't know if he fits that exact caliber of pitcher. I think he's year to year he's somewhat inconsistent, but
But he's never had a bad season.
not really. Not for him he's had bad seasons. For a pitcher, he's had many good seasons and many mediocre seasons.
So let me show you. Let me tell you his record. What his record's like. Some of his stats look like. His 2023 stats: win loss 14-9. He had a 2.25 ERA, 234 strikeouts, 99 walks. In 2023, his walk rate was 13.3%, which is the first time in 173 seasons that a pitcher has had a walk rate over 13%.
And this is a stat I think we should also look into. How many have these walks have translated over to runs?
Mm-hmm.
As of last season, I don't think it's much.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, especially with the 2.25 ERA.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way. So I'm really excited to see Blake Snell perform. I think that unfortunately the Giants are at a crossroads overall. I think that they've got some they had some great gets, and I think this is a make or break season. If Jorge Soler, Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, if they perform and the Giants still don't make it to the postseason, I think that it's going to be a rough 5 years of this podcast because it's just going to be, I think it's going to be official. The Giants are in rebuild mode. And it's just going to be a long time before the talk is going to be about, it's going to be a lot of River Cats talk. It's not going to be a whole lot of like, okay, who's playing? Like, no, let's talk about who, in the next few years will be playing. And we have to give them a few years, to get their feet under them before they get to their peak. Then we can probably talk about seeing the postseason again. So I really hope that the Giants perform. And I think with these, not just with the gets, but with getting Bob Melvin, I think that kind of shows that the front office is they want to win. Now, how much of that is also Farhan, just trying to like save his job? I don't know. But we also have players that are returning that I'm happy about. Lamont Wade Jr. He stayed with the team. He had a crazy on base percentage with a hilariously low batting average because he was just getting walked. He had such a great eye. It was very rare to see him strike out. It was he had the fun nickname of Lawak Wade Jr. So I'm excited to see him back. He's a really good first baseman. Always seems cool and collected. Although he did get into to an argument with a Cardinals pitcher during a home game, which is like the only time I think that season where you kind of saw him like lose his temper, because he was on second base and the the pitcher like told him to like stop staring at him or something. It was really weird. It was really bizarre. Another player that's staying is Mike Yastrzemski.
Yes, he's my favorite player you guys have.
His grandfather, Carl Yastrzemski, played for the Red Sox. Also, his grandfather mentioned in the Stephen King book, the Dark Tower series, Book 7, The Dark Tower, or not The Dark Tower, Book 5, Song of Susanna. I don't know, Yaz, with he looks like he might be going back to right field, where I think he is a really, really good right field. I think he's a great right fielder. I think he just excels there. And I hope that he's able to stay healthy. I hope that his hamstring doesn't give him the problems that it did last season, because he was out for a long time. I want to see his glorious mustache that he only grows during May, I believe. He can also hit dingers when he's healthy. He's clutch. He's a clutch hitter. Just excited to see him back. Wilmer Flores, I'm excited that he's remaining with the team. I hope that he stays. I hope that he doesn't get traded. I hope that he's able to succeed as a utility player. I saw him mostly on third base. I think he could play shortstop. I don't think he'll be going out to the outfield, but we'll see. Tyro Estrada is another great guy. He's second base. I don't know. He's just calm, collected, just does his job and does it well. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Blake Sabol, if he's going to be sent down to the minors or if he's going to stay on the 40-man. We got the Giants got him through a Rule 5 trade with the Pirates. And let me tell you, Pirates fans were not happy with the Pirates front office when they saw what Blake Sabol was doing. Because he's a great catcher. He's a little bit of utility guy. He's a catcher, but they also can throw him into left field. So if you have him in left, so like you could ideally, you could have, Yaz in right, Jung Hoo Lee in center. You could have Blake Sabol in left field. If need be, you could throw, if Jung Hoo Lee isn't going to be playing, then you can have, Luis Matos in center field. There's like a lot that you can do, and Blake Sabol is going to. I like him. He had a few catcher's interferences last season, but he's a rookie, so I think you can forgive that. We'll see how he performs in the regular season. Patrick Bailey, I was playing kind of loose with returning players. I kind of saw it as like, who am I happy to see, once again, and Patrick Bailey's definitely on that list. Rookie season and veterans were already letting him call games, like whole games. The amount of trust they have in him is amazing. He had the second fastest pop-up time for a catcher at under 2 seconds. He's perfect. He is the everybody says this, and I agree that he is the second coming of Buster Posey. He's a different. He's a different player than Buster, but I don't know if you ever saw Joey Bart, who we thought, or who was originally going to be like the catcher.
Yeah, I vividly recall you being so unhappy after that 100+ win season at just his performance alone.
Joey Bart, and those are big. Buster Posey's shoes are big shoes to fill, and Patrick Bailey just has a really great defensive mind. If he can pick up on the offense, that would be awesome. I hope he doesn't have a sophomore slump. I hope that he's able to perform as he did. Like, I want his rookie year to be his worst year. And he had an amazing rookie year. He could do it. He's going to be the catcher.
I hope to see at least some of that from Austin Wells, who Yankees fans are predicting to be our new catcher of the future.
Yeah.
But you guys seem to have your version of him already. So by the end of this, I might be a little envious of what you have.
I hope so. I hope that he is able to. I want everyone to look at Patrick Bailey and just look at your own catcher and just be like, oh, if only. There was a lot of turnover this season. But if there was one player that I'm the saddest that is leaving, It's going to be John Brebbia. Funny guy. Goofy. He did this thing where he would get, when you do your pictures, they do the pictures at the beginning of the year. He does it clean shaven. And for the whole season, he doesn't shave his beard. Looks like an absolute homeless man by the end of the season. Funny guy. He would pull pranks on not pull pranks, but he would get Gabe. He'd rib him a little bit. There was one time where Gabe went to go pull him out. He was a reliever, and he just went and give the ball back to Gabe. And he was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to pull me out? Because I can stay." Just seemed like a really funny guy, and I'm really sad that he's gonna go. But people that I'm happy that are going. Jock, good riddance. What a disappointing 2 years. I watched them in 2022. I watched him make mistakes in left field, and I saw him fix those mistakes with a home run in Colorado. But he shouldn't be making mistakes against the Rockies. And then this last season, just you're the DH. Doesn't seem like you're taking your position seriously. You're not taking the game seriously. And Desclafani is another one that I'm kind of okay, goodbye. The bullpen was such a disaster at the start of the season, and there were some pitchers that just couldn't get it together at the end, and Desclafani was definitely one of those. The MLB is talking about reducing the number of pitchers a team can have, and if one of those spots were to be held by Desclafani, I'd be like, approve the rule. Get him out of here. He embarrassed me in front of Eli, Liam and I's mutual friend.
Mutual friend we play D&D with from time to time.
Went to go watch a Twins Giants game, and I was talking up Desclafani. He was starting that day, and I was telling Eli, I was like, hey, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good pitcher. Not too bad. And as I was telling him that, he gave up a home run. So I was like, all right, I'll stop talking about my team and how much I like them.
For the entire rest of the day.
For the whole day. And so that comes down to the season estimation. And I think, so I see, it's funny because I put this down before, the Giants decided to pop off. So originally I was thinking they were going to be 87-75. I think they're going to be a little bit closer to 90. I think they can get 3 more games out of this. At least 2.
Okay.
But whether or not that makes it to the postseason, I don't know. The NL West is stacked. The only thing I can say is that they are not going to be 5th. That's a guarantee. I can say that with 100% certainty. The San Francisco Giants will not be 5th in the NL West. It's going to might be a fight for 4th. It all depends if the Padres do what they did last year. I think the Giants could sit pretty at 3rd place.
Okay.
We'll see how the Diamondbacks do.
They have a pretty critical season going on. I think the way that you think of the Giants is how I think of the Diamondbacks. I think they need to prove that last year wasn't a fluke year.
I haven't been paying attention to the Diamondbacks. I probably should pay a little bit of attention to them since they're in our division.
They are in your league. They are in your division.
I think that it's going to be a little bit like last year. It's going to be a little bit of a fight for 3rd, maybe, between the Giants and the Padres. It's just that last year I thought the fight for 3rd was going to be between the Giants and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks just decided to go all the way.
Who did you say is taking home 2nd in your division?
Oh, who's going to take 2nd?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be between the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, I feel like. I don't know what the Padres are going to do.
Then who's taking 1st?
I hope I hope the Giants, but if I'm being real, I'd much rather it be the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
I can get behind the Diamondbacks. Snakes alive. I don't know. I'm a sucker for those Cinderella stories,
Yeah.
And also, it's a lot easier, when your team was when you look at your team and they're like, okay, you guys are making it. Who can I look at? Although potential hot take, I think the Phillies are my number 2.
Really?
I think so. I don't know. I like Blooper, I like Bryce Harper. Kyle Schwarber runs funny. I like that. Trey Turner's pretty cool. He got a lot cooler when he left LA.
When he left LA, yeah. Bryce Harper, you a fan?
Yeah, I like Bryce Harper.
New first baseman.
He had a robot arm. Yeah, I don't know. I think Phillies would be my number 2 team. Hopefully, I don't need to resort to a number 2 team this season. If Blake Snell performs, if Jorge Soler harnesses the power of the sun, the Giants are going to be in a good spot.
If I can share my opinions, I think I'd be a little more optimistic if I were you. I know I said that a lot last season,
Yeah.
but yeah, I said that last season.
Did you see how our season ended last year?
It was like with a wet fart.
Yeah, going from a somehow having a postseason position through the majority of the season and just watching it wither away. But like like you saw how depressed I was during this offseason,
Yeah,
just after the show,
because
hey
they
Shining.
weren't really doing anything up until like the very end when I think you actually came away with a pretty good haul.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It was a great haul. The players that needed to stay stayed.
But my optimism last season for you came with the contingency that all you really needed was another like win streak under your belt.
Yeah.
That never really came to fruition.
No,
But
no, it did not.
I think your team worked well under sure hot streaks because a hot streak entails a wins, but just like
Mhm.
if a couple of guys get hot, if a couple of guys can put like consecutive hit games together, I think would have been very healthy. I think your team as it's built now is a lot more sustainable for future success.
Mhm.
I think Bob Melvin specifically can lead guys even with his kind of old head kind of coaching style to some form of success.
I think I think that's what the Giants need. I think that if there's one thing that I truly believe, it is that when you're winning, you can do whatever you want. If the Giants
Mm.
were winning, I wouldn't have an issue with Jock smoking that cigar during batting practice. I'd be like, yeah, because you're hitting, and the Giants are winning. And when you're not winning, you have to you, you get someone like Bob Melvin to come in and reestablish discipline. And that's what the Giants were. I think that you if if Bob Melvin, you had same guys, and you had Bob Melvin last year, I think the Giants don't peter out. I think there may have been I think Bob Melvin is going to do a lot. Um, just because you're in that manager spot is really important. Um, also with him being like an old school kind of dude is less platooning. Not going to be relying on openers. Not going to be pulling out someone who's doing really good because all of a sudden the other team decided to put up a lefty.
Yeah.
I think analytics can help, but I think that when you rely on them too much, you start putting bad thoughts in someone's head. I think Yaz was the one that talked about that. He's like, he gets talked about like he's really bad against lefties, and he's like, well, am I? Like, I don't really get a bad against. If you don't bat against lefties, then yeah, when you're batting against a lefty, you're not going to be great because you're not batting against them already, and kind of get. I think that kind of puts that could put something like a bad thoughts into someone's head.
Do you think there is room now that he's departed for Gabe Kapler somewhere as a manager in the league, maybe next season?
Um, I think he would be great in player development. I think
Mm.
that he would be really good at kind of like more behind the scenes stuff and like helping players out like one to one.
Hmm.
Because he does take that stuff very seriously. He it's a priority for him. It's a priority for the Giants as well. Um, but that there is that fine line, and I think that when you have your manager thinking about that kind of stuff, um, more than like the game that's in front of him, that can cause some problems. Uh, but I don't think Gabe was like terrible. I mean, I know I read off his record; he only had one winning season, uh, but it also just isn't on him either. At the same time, like I don't know when you have Brandon Crawford, who also I didn't put as the. I want to say that I'm really sad about Brandon Crawford leaving. It makes sense, because he's older. The Giants need to look forward, but he still wants to play. That I can respect that. Very sad to see him go. He went to the Cardinals, but like there's no ill will there. Um, but he had a lot of errors last season. And when you're the manager, it's like, well, what do? We have no shortstop depth. It took like it wasn't until I think late summer, early fall that we got Marco Luciano, who's like expected to replace, Brandon Crawford. It's like there were no reliable backups. We had no everyday shortstop, and you have a rookie, and rookies make mistakes. It was when you see Brandon Crawford there at shortstop, you kind of get reminded, or when he's not there, you get reminded of how important the shortstop position is. And when you don't have a good shortstop or an inexperienced shortstop, you feel the pain.
I definitely feel that.
And unfortunately, Crawford had a lot of errors. He was also getting hurt a lot because he was making some clutch plays, and he's old. And he'd be out for the rest of the game after diving for a ball. And it was like, okay, like this isn't sustainable, man. But like when it comes to like that kind of stuff, I don't know what, like when you're the manager in the middle of the game, like what do you do when like your team just like they stop hitting? It's like what? Guys, hit the ball, swing the bat, stop striking out, do something. Attempt to put the ball in play.
Something for like a hitting coach
Yeah,
to do, which like
and
would he be cut out for? Do you think, Gabe?
Well, no, because like I think he's gonna be better in like player development. Like I think he's gonna be better like in the figuring out what like kind of like what the clubhouse needs.
Okay, like a team like player development.
Yeah, like a team development guy. Because Gabe was given a lot of leeway. He had a lot. He was able to handpick who he wanted for each, for pitching coach, for hitting coach, for the base coaches. He was able to like kind of do a lot of that, and it wasn't working. Like it didn't work. And when you're given, it's kind of scary when you're given that freedom. You own the failures.
Yeah.
I think that like if you still had Gabe as the manager, if you had someone kind of like old school, like with the Bob Melvin mentality, that was Gabe's boss, I think that you would have a really good recipe there. But unfortunately, Gabe was let go. And what does feel like a Farhan just trying to get one, his one more year. He's got to turn around this year, and if he doesn't, like he's out of a job as well.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. I don't think Bob Melvin's going anywhere though.
I don't think so
once his
either.
contract's over, if he doesn't retire, I think that he's gonna stay. And I think this season we're gonna see some improvements.
And I guess just one more question to round out that last little part of your section. There was talk over the offseason of like, especially over this offseason, losing out on Otani and Yamamoto and not really picking up a big free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after losing Judge.
Oh yeah.
The year before.
Arson Judge.
There was like some questions brought up about San Francisco as a destination.
Yeah.
And everyone signed to like every like possible little thing, just like the culture, the safety of the city for some reason, as if there was some other element to it. When even though if you're attracting a big name free agent, they can kind of live wherever they wanted and commute every day through helicopter or private jet.
Yeah,
but also just overall like ability to. I want to know your diagnosis on why people might not want to play for the Giants as a franchise or as just an overall destination to play, and what is being done to, in your opinion, like change that perception and get more people to the team in the future.
Yeah, so I'm originally from California, but the Central Valley. It's a blessing that I wasn't turned into a Dodgers fan.
You were salvaged.
Yeah, I was salvaged. I was saved.
You were delivered.
Yeah, but I was but I'm the part of Central California, which is like the breadbasket of the country. The biggest city around me was Fresno, and that was at one point 2 hours away. And the last time I was in San Francisco was 12 years ago, and I actually watched the Giants play. It was the game. It was in June of 2012, and it was the game before they threw their first no hitter, and that was the year that they also won their second World Series. They won in 2010, 12, and 14, and when it was that time. So like I didn't really have to deal with like a lot of homeless people where I lived, right? But you had to deal with them in San Francisco. They were like just kind of there, you know. They're there. For me, just it was just kind of like I mean, it's a big city, or San Francisco is really not that big, but you know what I mean. It's a city. There's homeless people in cities.
There's homeless people everywhere if you bother to look.
Yes, yeah, that is also true. One of the things that some of the players and some of the management, like even Buster Posey, to give you an idea of like, should you be afraid of the city of San Francisco? Buster Posey's from Georgia, and when he retired in 2022, let me double check that. I think it was the 2022 season. That was the 107 win season. 2021. He retired after the 2021 season. He moved back to Georgia. He wasn't in Georgia for very long before he moved back to San Francisco, and now he's part of Giants management, right?
Mm-hmm.
For someone to be from rural Georgia to live in San Francisco and be a forever Giant, and then leave, and then just come back, because it has nothing to do with this job, because that is definitely a job that with the money he's making, you could get a jet. You can get a jet. You could do it remotely. You don't need to be in the city, but he loves the city. But some of the players and Buster's one of them also noted that when other teams come to play in San Francisco, for some reason they choose like a bad part of the city to stay in, and then they have to when they have to go to the park, they drive through that bad part of the city, and that kind of paints people's perceptions of it. I think another thing too is in this very politicized era that we're in, that San Francisco has become a punching bag. You talk about the homeless, you can talk about whatever drug problems there are, but you won't talk about Silicon Valley's there.
Yeah.
Google is headquartered there, I think. Santa Clara, right? Clarita?
Yeah.
Just like all these tech companies are there. They're headquartered there. And, we're talking over devices that were designed there. You're listening to this. Oh, if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to it, probably on a device that's designed by a company that's headquartered there. And people only want to paint one picture of the city, when San Francisco isn't that, just like any other city. Like, okay, we can talk about whatever, just like we can talk about one negative thing about the city, okay, fine. But like when you think of like West Virginia, it'd be kind of unfair if you only talked about how many opioid deaths there are.
Yeah.
And like, well, that's not indicative of the state of West Virginia. So, and if you were from West Virginia, you would probably be like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like people aren't dying left and right from opioids, from OxyContin. But like you can take any negative thing for any city, any state, and just if you only talk about that one thing, and you spend 2 decades just talking about this one thing negatively, yeah, that's going to paint a perception that's going to be negative. And how the city gets around that, I don't know. Like it just might be one of those things where it's like, the Giants are going to have to court, players and show them around and be like, what are you talking, like, and have players come out, which, some have, and be like, it's not some, falling apart into the ocean city. Just like anywhere, there's good places and bad places. Like it'd be like if people today were still talking about New York City, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Be like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not New York anymore. It used to be, but now it's not. But like, if you spent,
in a way, they still are.
Yeah, but like, if you spent like
negative to what you're talking.
Yeah, but if you spent like 20 years, talking about it, it'd be like, because like there's a window that you could look at New York and just say these negative things, but I think the Yankees, being the Yankees, are able to uh, rise above that, because they have like this history, right? I don't know. It's just the Giants have also been in a slump. I mean, their last World Series win was 2012. 2021 was their last postseason appearance, which isn't too bad, but then you had just dismal seasons after that. And when you just have those losses, and people, like the Giants are just having these problems winning, and an easy punching bag is just to also just talk about the city. It's like, but if the Giants start winning, then I think you're going to start seeing less of that talk.
Yeah, like what a historic franchise
Yeah, you're going to talk about like
that is, dating back to however they moved from one historic city over to the West Coast in a big gamble, and they got a, I don't know if they want to invoke his name, but fuck, what's his name?
who you talking about?
Home run man,
Barry Bonds.
Roy man, Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to invoke his name, but like, just the city Barry Bonds chose out of all the places, they were the highest bidder.
Yeah.
They had that historic one and historic run in the 20 knots, where winning all those World Series with relatively the same team,
Yeah.
how much cohesion they have just historically. But I think it's just a matter of perception for the time and
Yeah,
how much
definitely.
goodwill can be built up.
It definitely is, because the Giants, with Brandon Crawford leaving, there's nobody on the team that was there for the dynasty run. He was the last one. And this
Yeah, so
spring training, it
now's really the
was,
time to build up that new
yeah,
like identity.
this spring training, it was diverted a little bit because out of nowhere, Paulo Sandoval comes out of retirement and was invited to the Giants spring training. That was wild. Unfortunately for the Panda, it seems like a little, too little, too late. Yeah, I don't know. It's just gonna. We're just like in a hyper politicized era, and until we get out of it, the San Francisco hate, well, it's never gonna go away, but it'll quiet down, and there's no better way to shut people up than to win. When you're able to do that. I mean, look at the 49ers. Like, nobody talks about San Francisco, the city, the same way as they do the 49ers, even though I know they're not in San
Yeah, no,
Francisco.
they're the God-fearing team that's gonna bring down the Pfizer-loving Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, or even the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, the talk about San Francisco is really only in discussion with the Giants, because they're the only San Francisco or Bay Area team that's not winning. And like, I don't watch a lot of football, I don't watch a lot of basketball stuff, but the conversations around the city do not seem to be the same around the basketball and football communities.
I think you got a lot of you got a lot of good sound bites in there that you can
Well, thank you.
cut up and take down whenever you need.
And
Because we got a long recording so far.
we do. I guess I'll just end it with, like, it's just really funny because, like, now I live in Texas.
Now you live in Texas.
Now I live in Texas because I'm an idiot. And let me tell you about the amount of people that I've run into that seem to know more about what the San Francisco City Council is doing than they are our very own city council. So it is very frustrating, just to hear. I get some ugly looks with the Giants hat.
Yeah,
a lot of people
with your particular brand of Giants hat.
My particular brand of Giants hat, and people like to make their opinions known, and it's annoying, but it can be a little bit humorous at the same time, because it's just like,
Comes with the territory.
Yeah, because it's just like, man, that wasn't even whatever. That's for something. That's a completely different podcast conversation. But yeah, this went way
to our new political podcast.
Yeah, this ties into our new political contest.
Also, actual two-front war.
Yeah, like, also interestingly titled Two Front War. we chose a very versatile name.
Yeah.
But yeah, this will do it for.
We will get into what the actual meaning of the name is in a future episode, if not next episode.
Yes. So Just a reminder, Two Front War is a bi-weekly podcast. We will return April 8th. That's going to cover the first, at least for the Giants, it's going to cover the first 9 games. I think it's also the first 9 games for the Yankees.
I would imagine.
I don't think we're into any 4-game series yet this early on. And we will recap those games. And the Giants are 9-0 next time we talk.
That would be something. I don't have those expectations for my team, let me tell you.
I like to dream. Well, Liam, do you have anything you want to add before we go?
Thank you for all who are listening. I am very excited about what the future holds, and we're going to stick with it. We're going to get a nice little season under our belt, and I hope we have some fun doing it.
I think we will have fun. All right. See you guys in 2 weeks. Opening day coming up.
See you soon, everybody.